Wow, I can't believe it's 2025 and we're coming at you to talk about channeling. And I'm going to get right into it in a second because I've talked about it a little bit, but we're going to talk more about channeling, especially as it relates to connecting with the spirit world. And for those of you who don't know who I am, um, I'm the woman who continued her relationship with her husband after he passed, and I'm not the only one out there, as I found out. And so I teach channeling as a way of connecting across the veil to continue our relationships, but also as a way to spiritually evolve and to heal. Okay. And I didn't know that that was going to happen, like all of that was going to happen, that learning to channel would actually help me connect to my husband after he crossed it made it possible for me to write a book with him because it was pretty easy for me to just let his thoughts come into me, blend with mine, and to hear the other side, because it was the spirit world that actually asked me to write the book with Alan. I mean, he said we had made an agreement before we incarnated to write our book, Supernatural Love, which you can find on Amazon under my name, Pamela Johnson, Pam Johnson, actually. And and so it all began because I learned how to channel. Now, of course, I had no idea that all this was going to happen. How could I have any idea? And when I learned to channel, this was back in the summer of 1987, which was a pretty significant period of time that month. There was something going on the planet called a harmonic convergence. I'm dating myself. That's how old I am. I was like 35 at the time. And it had some spiritual significance that I was clueless about at the time. I mean, I didn't know nothing about any of this, right? I just knew when I witnessed somebody going into trance and channeling, something in me kind of lit up. I was just fascinated. I never for a moment, seriously, never for a moment thought it was weird or thought it was fake. I just could feel it. I could just feel that this person had gone into trance, was in a different state of consciousness, and I could tell by what was coming through, what she was saying, what the entity was saying, that it wasn't her. I just knew. And I know it's hard for some people who are very left-brained, who are not open to this. They're just not going to get it. And quite frankly, I don't care. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. You just can't convince anybody. You just can't. So what I've come to understand is that channeling, for me anyway, right? And Alan says for him too, is a much more direct path to spiritual growth than almost anything else, right? I didn't know it at the time. I didn't understand it till years later when I began working with other psychics and mediums, and even started teaching psychic development, which I wasn't that enthused about teaching psychic development. I was more interested in spiritual development. But back to the channeling, right? When I walked in to this room, saw this woman who was teaching a Learn to Channel workshop that weekend. I saw her going to trance, started channeling. And I was just fascinated by that. And I thought, I want to find out more about this. Like, what is this? I know now that that was my soul letting me know that this was for me, that this was part of my path. So I want to point that out to you, because if you feel drawn to something, it captures your imagination or your interest, and you don't know why. Don't let your physical mind talk you out of it, because that's what happens to a lot of people. They just start questioning and analyzing it, and your physical mind, promise you, is not going to like it. It is just not ever, well, I won't say ever, there's always exceptions, but very, very unlikely that your logical physical mind is going to be on board. It's going to start giving you thoughts like, what are you doing? This is crazy. No one's going to understand what this is about. This is wrong, or this can't be, right? You have to know that that's not coming from your soul. Your soul knows when something's right for you, and it lets you know through emotion. So luckily for me, I didn't have any over analytical mind. I just was never like that. I was always rather kind of the person who went with their gut, and I said, you know what, this feels good. I'm going to go do it. And my life pretty much worked out pretty easily. I mean, I had my challenges because we all are going to have them, but I was able to sidestep big missteps because I was following my joy. I was really trusting my gut instinct, which I didn't know at the time was intuition. And so when I felt drawn to take this Learn to Channel class, I dove all in. I found out later that out of the, I think there were maybe 10, I can't remember now, maybe 10, 12 people in the workshop in somebody's home. I found out later that I was probably the only one that really like went all in and took off with it. And yet I was probably out of all the people there, had the least amount of experience because I was in a class that had people who were massage therapists, and they were more spiritually aware, somebody who was a transcendental meditation instructor and had traveled to India and was really well versed in spirituality. And yeah, there were some other people that were like, one person was a flight attendant. She ended up becoming a friend of mine. But most of the people had a little more knowledge than me. Many of them at least had readings. I never had a reading before. Never had a reading. I just walked into this person, see the person channeling, and said, I want to learn what that is. And I realized later that, yeah, that was for me. And so it was orchestrated in that sense. I was meant to stumble into that workshop, not really stumble into it, but, I was meant to take it. So I became obsessed with it. Okay. The only reason I was obsessed with channeling was because it was so addictive. I'd never felt so much love, right? And I knew it wasn't me. Like, how could it be me? How could I go into this channeling state and just flip a switch and feel love, right? I just knew that the messages were coming through were true, okay, were accurate, because I was start channeling for people. I was calling up friends saying, hey, come over. I'm doing this thing called channeling. And most of my friends were like, oh, okay, like I'll check that out. So I had people come over and they sit in front of me, and I would just bring through whatever the answer was to the question that they asked me, because channeling works well in response to a question, because then it comes through. It's like you're kind of downloaded with it, if you will. So I was really obsessed with it, and people were coming over to my house. I was channeling for people. I was also channeling for myself. I'd also just kind of connect with my guide and ask questions. And in the process of doing that, every day, literally every day, for 5 months, every day for at the very least, 45 minutes. A lot of times it was more for a couple hours. And I was also started having a meditation circle in my house. This is toward the tail end of that 5 months. And I wasn't expecting that I would become psychic. I know that sounds really weird, because nowadays most people would say, well, wouldn't that happen? When are you going to be? My teacher never told me that. At least I don't remember her telling me that. My teacher also didn't tell me that channeling, because it's a higher state and you're connecting with guides and angels who love you, right? And you're merging with them, because you have to, in order to channel, you have to blend your energy with who you're channeling. This is why it's very powerful when it comes to channeling a loved one, because you're literally blending your energy with them in a deep way, and you're then communing or connecting, and the communication can be not just in messages, but physically. Okay, like you can feel them. You can, of course, hear them. You can even see them, maybe not like physical, but you could get a sense of them clairvoyantly or in your mind's eye. All of that using all of your psychic senses, right? Clairsentience, which is clear feeling, both emotional, right? Emotional feelings, and then physical sensations. And of course, clairvoyance, which is clear sight, clear vision, all of that. You can certainly hear them talking, whether it seems like a voice in your head that sounds separate from you, like it's them, or it sounds like you're talking to yourself, which isn't really what it is. Because trust me, to really talk to yourself, it takes concentrated effort and it's exhausting. You're not talking to yourself, and your physical mind isn't talking to you either, because it doesn't believe in this. So why would it be talking to you? You could be deliberately talking to you, but you would know the difference, right? So then there's clear cognizance, where you just know what you know. It's just a download. So what ended up happening for me, because I would be in a light trance state. I wasn't completely out. I was in a light trance state, and I would just talk and I'd have my eyes closed. But I was working with somebody, this was at like the fourth or maybe the fifth month or so, towards the end of it. And she asked me to open my eyes. She was very intuitive, very spiritual woman. And she said, I just have a feeling that you're going to be just as accurate, just as tuned in if you opened your eyes. So why don't you try it? So, felt completely comfortable with her. So I said, okay, let's just do it. So what I did was, she was sitting right in front of me, and I just would look up like to the corner of the room, my living room. I look up in the corner instead of looking at her, because it would be too, let's say, I would get more into my logical mind if I just started looking at her, right? So I would just kind of look off to the side, and I would just talk. I would just tell her whatever was coming into my mind, whatever started flowing through in my mind. And she said, you know what? It's just as accurate, and it feels like you're just as tuned in. And that day became very significant for me, because she also was the first person to pay me for my work. And I wish I'd saved that check, but she paid me $40 for this reading. I've just been working with people for free. She said, you need to start charging. She said, this is going to be your life's work. And I said, really? Like, that was not my intention. I had no intention with channeling, except that I knew that I loved it, right? And when you do something you truly love, just for the love of it, just because it makes you happy, it brings you joy. I didn't know that then, but I certainly know now that means you're on your path. That means you're following your soul's guidance. And if you just keep doing that, life will deliver to you your destiny. If you don't do that, if you try to overthink it, right, and you try to look at everything logically, yeah, you can miss some of the destiny points, that you've set up in advance, because you're overthinking it, you're overanalyzing it, you're worrying you're not going to, make it, you're just stressing about everything. That's what derails people. That's what causes chaos in people's lives, because they're letting their physical mind lead the way. When I was channeling, it it just started to open up all these doors, like all these people that I met, like really kind of out of nowhere. Like, I'd go to a class that I wasn't really interested in, but I felt guided to go take it, because I was channeling. I would feel guided to think. I just knew, like, somebody would suggest something, and I'd say, "Oh yeah, okay, I feel like I'm going to do that." I was more tuned in to what was really for me than ever before, because of being in that channeling state on a regular basis. And so again, when somebody mentions something to me, or, oh, I want you to meet somebody, I'd go, okay, I feel like that's what I want to do. I know now I was following my joys, following my passion, just instinctively. And it led me to all kinds of things. That led me to learn certain healing modalities that I went on to practice. And then I would take it to a certain level, the healing modality, let's say, and I would stop, because I could feel that it wasn't for me anymore. Like, my channeling state was so kind of constant, because I was always kind of in that gamma state of just feeling in the flow, that I go, no, I don't feel like, I'm not feeling it anymore. I'm not feeling called to this anymore. And I would stop. I would tell my husband, I'm not going to do this anymore. He'd get all upset and saying, "What are you talking about? You're making a lot of money and people love your teaching, and you're just getting started, and you just taught a class of 18 people in Glastonbury, England, who traveled from all around the world to learn from you this healing modality." And I said, "Yeah, but I know I'm done." I could feel that the energy had run out. And then when I tuned into my guides, they go, "You took it as far as you needed to take it. You just needed to see mainly that you're here to be a teacher," because they later showed me that when I was teaching it, I was in a channeling state, like I am right now as I'm talking to you. Whenever I work with people, I'm in a channeling state. And so what I'm saying is not coming from my logical mind pretty much ever, especially when I work teaching, talking about these subjects. Okay. It's not my human me. It's my higher self, my spirit, right? And then my guides will come through. And then Alan, because he works with me, he's blended with me. And sometimes I'll hear myself say, "Oh, Alan is saying XYZ." Literally, it's like it's coming into my consciousness, and I'm saying that he wants to say this. But none of it's planned. And for a long time, back in the day, when people would ask me to teach, I would try to teach a more traditional way, where you would, prepare the information, have it all printed out, have an outline, the whole deal, right? Like, or maybe have a PowerPoint or whatever it is. And it never worked for me. And then finally Spirit said, "You don't get it. We're working with you. Yes, you can have a general plan. That's all well and good. But in the moment, because everything's happening in the now, we have what we want to say that will come through perfectly if you just be in the flow, if you just go with what's happening and be flexible." So I said, "All right, fine." And then they also started telling me that I wasn't here to teach somebody else's modality, which was frustrating as well, because I thought, well, what do I teach then, right? I knew I was a teacher. So if you're a teacher, well, what are you going to teach? What are you going to teach? And it wasn't until Alan passed away on his 82nd birthday. He says 83rd, I'm sorry, 83rd birthday. He goes, I'm trying to make him younger than he was. But he died on his birthday, transitioned on his birthday. And it wasn't until he transitioned that I actually found my life purpose in the sense of my teaching. Because I had taught for many years, taught channeling, taught psychic development. I taught a lot of things. It's just because I'm a born teacher. I know that now. And so if I found something that I loved, I'd learn it, I'd master it. I was good at teaching it, taught Reiki to 104 people, 104 Reiki masters, and all of that was channeled. All of that was channeled, even the Reiki teaching, because I couldn't teach it the way other people were teaching it, because my guide said, "You have to teach it your way." And Reiki was perfect because nobody's there telling you what to do. Whereas other modalities I learned, and I would try to channel like my version of it, I could get sued literally, because some of these people who are founders of these modalities will literally take you to court if you change the material. And so right there, Spirit said, you were just here to learn that you could be a teacher, that you're working with us, and you take what you've learned from all these different modalities, including Reiki, including so many other things, and you've put it into your own, make it your own. But now what I'm doing with Alan, and what our channel is really all about, is really transmitting these frequencies from the higher realms. We're here to open people up. And I know for some people new to our work that might sound really like, what? Like, how is that possible? All I know is what people tell us who join our program, or Supernatural Love Academy, or even people who just follow us and watch our videos and then write to me. thanking me for how they have made contact with their loved one on the other side, or have all these things are happening for them. This is what we're here for. It's not about teaching you information. I had this epiphany this morning when I woke up. It's like Spirit said, you do understand, with the advent of artificial intelligence, right? Everything that you and I want to know is there online. Literally, you can find it in a minute. If you write a prompt, basically the prompt tells the AI what you want to know about, right? Try it. It can do a better job of giving you the information than I could, right? Like for example, telling you about all the archangels, like every single one of them, telling you the history of all the archangels, right? In all the different religions. It can do that. It's all there in the cloud, which is consciousness. You don't need teachers to teach you information, people. You don't. We're at this kind of juncture, fork in the road, where people don't need somebody in a body to say, let me teach you what you need to learn. No. Don't need the person. You need to know that the content they're teaching from is accurate. Okay, that grants you. That can be refined. But that aside, right? You don't need somebody to teach you. What you need is somebody that can give you an experience. We give you an experience. We do this because Alan is on the other side, actively working with your loved ones that you are trying to connect with. If you're watching us with that intention, whether you're watching us on YouTube, whether you're in our academy, whether you found us in whatever way you found it, whether you're on your Facebook group, Love and Life After Death group, it doesn't matter. Whether you call out to us because you read about us in our book, Supernatural Love, and because people have told me that. They said, I read your book and I started talking to Alan and I saw him in my dream, or I had this experience. You know how many times I get those emails? I don't talk about it all the time because to me, it sounds like rather self-serving, like, oh yeah, look how wonderful I am, because I don't care about that crap. I'm here to help you, or whoever is willing and ready to open up and awaken, because we're standing at a pivotal time on the planet. Everything, folks, is going to change within the next 5 years. Everything. And in a positive way, okay? This is nothing scary. It's what we all want. But it's going to be, if you're not prepared, unsettling. If you don't understand who you are as a spirit, that you're not a person that you think you are. You're not your personality ego. That is not you. That is like the role you're playing in the movie called your life. So when you open up to channeling, as I did, again, what I didn't know at the time, I was accessing fifth dimensional energy. And let's be clear here, because there is so much misinformation. So many spiritual teachers that I respect, telling this nonsense about, oh, we're evolving to fifth dimension. You cannot do that, my friends. Fifth dimension is the spirit world. You can't be fifth dimensional until you drop your body. Impossible. What they're not telling you, because they got it all mixed up, is that what they're describing being fifth dimensional is really being fourth density, which is the highest frequency we can attain while in a physical body. You might, it is, well, I was going to say you might call it enlightenment, but I wouldn't really call it that. It's about ascension. So basically then you've ascended. You're not your limiting beliefs. You're not your negative ego. You're in a higher state pretty much all the time. Obviously, there are going to be levels of that fourth density, right? Like lower fourth density, higher fourth density. You and I, or everybody, primarily exist in third density, which is part of the fourth dimension. It's called fourth dimension because there's 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time that gives you fourth dimension, right? Well, within the dimension, the fourth dimension, which could be likened to a country, you have states, frequency states. Third density is the basic one that everyone's in. Fourth density, you work your way up to fourth density. That's what ascension is about. Channeling to help you get there in a way that mediumship, Alan says, never can. I'm sorry, it just can't, because you're not connecting with higher beings beyond your deceased loved ones. We're talking about, I was connecting with angels and guides. I was not channeling deceased loved ones. Nothing against that. And you can certainly channel your loved one across the veil, and that's what we teach people to do. It also benefits you to channel higher beings than your loved one for obvious reasons, because you want to reach as high as you can to fifth dimension. So just because you can't go to fifth dimension and stay there because you got a body, that means you're tied to fourth dimension, doesn't mean your consciousness cannot engage with the fifth dimension. That's what it's about. Your consciousness is expanding to interact with fifth dimension, right? And in doing that, helps you evolve. But here's what my teacher never told me. She never said, well, if you have any issues, you have any fears, you have any limiting beliefs, they're going to come up because they're going to get in the way, because those are denser energies. And when you're rising up, all that is lower starts to become discordant because it doesn't work anymore. When you raise your frequency, you have to clear what's in your basement of your subconscious, whatever your fears are, whatever unprocessed trauma that you're carrying. And most people in the physical world have a lot of trauma that they're carrying. Let's be clear. Most people, not everybody, but most people. And some people have a boatload of unprocessed trauma that is going to keep you at third density if you don't, process it. Process it really simply means to feel it and move beyond it. Just let it go, okay? Not stay attached to it. And then also your limiting beliefs, because those will lower your frequency. Because if you believe in the illusion of death, by definition, you're going to stay in a state of grief. You cannot not do that. I don't have grief anymore. I pretty much got rid of all my grief within the first year of Alan's passing. And the only reason I had grief was not because I thought he was dead. It was because I was angry at him. And so I had a lot of regret and remorse and all of those feelings, right? That kept me stuck, that kept me sad because I was living in the past. And so what we teach, especially with our academy students, is you've got to be focused in the now, because this is where they are. Everything is here and now. They're right here. This is what Alan says all the time. We haven't gone anywhere. We're right here with you. Everything is right here. There's nowhere for them to go. Everything is here. And I literally mean here. I don't mean over there in the kitchen of your house or in the yard of your house. I mean right here in your space, okay? Because all of existence is right here. But there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of nonsense. There are a lot of spiritual teachers who think they know what they're talking about, and you got to be really extra cautious right now, because thanks to AI, anybody can go do the research, like I told you, right? Go online and ask about things. Even put it, you can even take content like somebody, like a teacher that you like, because you can copy and paste. Trust me, there's all kinds of ways you can take their content, put it into AI, and have it tell you what you want to know. So that person could do all that, put together amazing workshop, my friends, to blow your mind. You go, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. Do they? So what we suggest that you do is evaluate based on what is the energy you're getting from them? What is their frequency? Are they walking their talk? Not just this is what they know, because that's nothing, because all the information is there. So we're inviting you to learn how to channel and get your own answers. get your own insights, because you're part of all that is. That's why we're teaching this weekend on Sunday, January 26th. We're teaching a free webinar, Channeling the Archangels. Mainly, we're going to focus on channeling Archangel Michael, and but you can channel whoever you want to channel. You can channel Archangel Raphael for healing, or any of the other archangels, but we're focusing on Michael primarily, and we know that that is the path, right? To get your own answers. We're moving away from the time of us seeking other people to translate the spirit world for us. You're meant to go direct. Why do you think people are dropping out of churches? Right? To be a spiritual person means you go direct. You're not going through the church. You're not going through an intermediary. You're not going through a psychic. You're not going through a medium. This is why we no longer do mediumship readings, because if I do that, I'm affirming that I'm the medium and you're not. Doesn't mean I can't get messages for you. I do all the time. But that wouldn't help you. That would mean you need to keep coming back to me or the medium to get your answer. We're moving out of that period. Let's be clear. And a lot of psychics and mediums are not happy about that for obvious reasons. There goes their livelihood. Don't worry, there will always be a need for competent, honest mediums who are truly reading the deceased. Okay, talking to them. Okay, not just reading their energy, because those are two different things. The few people understand that. They're literally talking to them. But don't be surprised if our loved ones across the veil don't want to come through a medium, because they know that we're all psychics, we're all mediums, we're all channels. So the more of us understand that, the more they're going to try to really tap on our shoulder and go, hey, I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to that other person. It's not even about the money paying for the medium. I don't care if you were wealthy and you can afford it. It's not going to deepen your connection. It's deepening the medium's connection, not yours. So it's about that. It's like, what do you want? Do you want to evolve spiritually so that you can truly have this amazing connection with your loved ones on the other side, and your guides and your angels, and be the true you? Because that's what it does. Connecting with the other side, it elevates you. It opens you up. You're going to be transformed. In fact, my friends, if you don't want to change, don't learn how to channel. Don't. If you're afraid of change, you're saying, I don't want to be different. Meaning different doesn't mean bad. Okay. It means I don't want to grow. I just want to stay the same. Don't learn a channel. Don't develop your connection across the veil. Don't. Walk away from it, because you cannot not change if you are blending and connecting with the fifth dimension. That's what I learned after 5 months of doing so, which nobody told me, because one night I was able to read everybody's mind. Now I understand I wasn't reading their mind. I was just so in tune with them that I knew what their thoughts were. I just knew. I could see all the connections between people, what they were. I knew, oh, this person is interested in that person. That person is not interested in that. I just knew all these things that I had no business knowing, because my consciousness had expanded, and I just knew the truth. This is what happens when you channel. It will happen more so, especially if you channel the angelic realm and your guides, because they have such a high frequency. And to some degree, yes, channeling your loved one, but it depends on their level of consciousness, if that makes sense, right? It's because every spirit on the other side is different. It's just how it is. Some of them are very evolved, some of them not so much, right? But the archangels and the angels, well, yeah, they are literally the first differentiation from God. First there was source, and then there was the archangels in the angelic realm. Okay, so when you can channeling the angelic realm, you're kind of going as pretty much as high as you can go, well, as high as you need to go to really connect with fifth dimensional energy. And that energy will change you. If you don't process what it starts bringing to the surface that doesn't match you, because it's going to shines its light on the darkness within you. And if you're not willing to process it, yeah, then you're going to have a bumpy ride, because you either going to go with the flow of that and say, I'm willing to heal it, I'm willing to transcend it, I'm willing to move through it, or you're put on the brakes, and then you're going to probably have problems emotionally, even physically, and certainly spiritually. But we're living in the time of the awakening. And what that means is that those who are ready, those who planned it, are here to more embody their soul, connect with the other side in whatever way works for them, and contribute to the transformation happening on the planet by working on themselves. You cannot change the world around you. It's not what this is about. You are here to change yourself. And when you change yourself, then your world changes. Right. So we invite you to join us for the webinar. The link is down below in the description box. We also have an automatic writing workshop that was recorded that we had done a couple months ago that will also help you channel very, very easily. And that's there too, down below. And other than that, just know that channeling is very easy to do. It's very easy to do. It takes practice to channel well. But when you're talking about just channeling your guides and your loved ones, you don't have to worry so much about that. You're not trying to be accurate for somebody else's sake. Think of it as kind of a journey of reconnecting with home, right? With the other side, with heaven. And even if all you're doing is just communing with them, just hanging out with them, and sharing your problems, your joys, your triumphs, your challenges, whatever, that can help you too. Okay, because you're not alone. They're always with you. And you can do this, or you wouldn't be here, no matter how life is for you right now. And I know these are challenging times for almost everybody. If you're here, that means you can get through it, right? And your guides and your angels are always here to help you. All right, so until next time, we're going to say goodbye. We're going to talk more about the angels, more about channeling as we move into February and for the rest of this month. So take care till we see you next time. All right, we hope we see you at the webinar. Bye. Bye-bye.